everybody. I've got two very special guests for y'all this week. Everybody, please welcome back to the show, Mr. Frank Martin, and first time, Gerald Von Stoddard. Welcome,
Howdy.
Gentlemen.
Hello.
So, Frank, we know you well. We all love Grim Space around here. Gerald, you've been around. I've seen you doing stuff. You just had the Immortal Coil Volume 1 finish up. I know you've worked on a bunch of other stuff. But you two have decided to team up and do something together. So that's what we're here to talk about. And I guess let's start there. Like, what's this team up all about? What are you guys doing together?
Well, this isn't our first actual collaboration. This is third or really fourth.
Who's keeping track anymore, honestly?
Too many books for me to keep track of all this stuff, guys. Come on.
I mean, Frank and I, we've been part of we met through a Discord group, and I had a story idea. But even before that, Frank was doing a Swamp Thing fanfic piece with C.J. Hudson. I really wanted to draw Swamp Thing, but that's kind of how we started talking, really. And then I had an idea for a comic called 1,000 Cuts, and sort of threw it out to some writers because I just didn't have time to write the script, and I wanted to be more collaborative. And we had a bunch of people, we were in a group together, but it was pretty apparent that Frank and I operated on the same wavelength. Like from the get-go. We just there wasn't like a lot of resistance. It was very same speed.
I was gonna call it free form. It's like it's weird because when Gerald and I start a project together, there's no like definitive start to it. It's not like we decide to do something and then figure out what that something is. We BS a lot and just throw ideas out. And a lot of it gets tossed by the wayside, but eventually something takes shape and becomes like its own project. So yeah, it's very freeform the way we throw ideas around and what works and what doesn't work and what changes and what stays the same. So these things just kind of blossom from out of the ether of our discussions.
So yeah, like two friends getting together, chatting, and then just like, oh man, we got this idea and let's go with it.
Yeah, I think Gerald mainly drives like the birth of this stuff because it's great when he has something in his head he wants to draw, because I'm used to working the other way around. I usually have something in my head and I have to tell an artist how to draw it. So when I work with Gerald, it's like what he sees, and then I try to make a story out of it. And he's like, no, it doesn't work like that. We need to go this way. And I'm like, okay. And then we do that enough times, and before we know it, we're actually going somewhere.
But also, Frank comes back and says, chill out, dude.
That doesn't stop you. That's never stopped you once.
So we did 1,000 Cuts. That is, that's still being fulfilled. And that should be in everybody's hands very shortly. That was our first like major full comic collaboration after the Swamp Thing. And then I had Immortal Coil, and I liked the way that we worked, and I trusted Frank. So Frank has come on as the writer and co-storyteller.
And then then we did Moon Boy, or A Love and Death in the Dark Side of the Moon. I call it Moon Boy because it's when we talk, it's hard to say that. It's a mouthful.
You can't write that name, so that's our project name was always Moon Boy.
Is the code name for it.
This is, I think, this is not a floppy. This is a graphic novel, and I think I'm calling this our first real, true collaboration where we are honoring each other's
from scratch. I would say from scratch.
Yeah, like from scratch. Frank has written it. It works the same way. I have an idea. I throw it at Frank, see what he thinks. If there's any weight to it, he tells me. We talk about it, and then he goes and writes it. And this script that he's written, I'm not even touching. So I just get to draw it. So I'm just drawing it.
I remember when I saw the project first, the first thing I thought was, that's going to be an interesting name to put on a floppy. Like, that title for a floppy is going to be a lot of fun to fit on there for whoever's your graphic designer. I'm assuming you, Gerald. But seeing that it's a graphic novel and OGN makes a little more sense. Do you have any worry that doing it in that format might be a problem, or are you excited to do it in that style?
I think from the very beginning, when he was pitching me the idea, we only worked on 1,000 cuts first. So we obviously were following the traditional issues, 4 issues, 5 issues. And then when he pitched me this idea, and I immediately was like, this doesn't feel like something we can serialize. This feels like, from beginning to end, a fully encroached story. And Gerald was like, absolutely. So right from the beginning, we never approached it from that model. But we do understand, we didn't want to do the whole, here's 5 pages, let's fund it, and then make the 90 pages, and then have everybody wait for it. So I think we're doing this kind of unique, weird webisode thing where we are serializing it in a way so that backers can keep up with the story as it's being made, rather than us disappearing and then coming back and just having to ship it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think if we didn't say it already, it's important to acknowledge that you guys are doing this through Kickstarter, and that's part of the reason why I say that, because OGNs on Kickstarter traditionally have some issues with like in terms of backing. So what have you done? I mean, you obviously talk about the serializing through digital means and everything. Have you done anything else other than trying to get on amazing shows like this one you're on right now to get more awareness for it and see if you could break the trend? I mean, I see you have a lot of followers as we record tonight.
And Frank and I are really pushing this one harder than maybe we have pushed any pre-launch before. We did a live stream AMA first. I think that was the end of August. Yeah, where we basically opened it up to questions. Anybody who came in on the live, because we know that this is going to be delivered in a different way, and it's a lot of pages. It's a self-contained story, and like Frank just said it, we didn't want to feel rushed or make a subpar story, both writing wise, both how it's delivered. Both our Dave Fowler's come on as a colorist, and Dave did a great comic book with Edward King called Futility Shapes, and I saw some of Dave's colors, and we work with, and both us individually work with great colorists, but this one in particular, as far as the art side, I was being very anal about it. It really had to take on a very different look. I mean, I was originally going to hand paint every single page, but I just don't have that kind of time. And Dave Fowler's come on, who's giving it this sort of painterly type quality to it to match sort of this sort of sci-fi, epic story. And instead of us rushing, we are making sort of our own webtoon. So we're not putting it on webtoons. If you back the Kickstarter, you will get the actual book. But we want to not just throw it all out there. We're making actually verticals of every page so that we'll have, probably close to 200 chapters that you can follow along and kind of become engrossed in this story, in this world, what's happening with these characters. Because we're really focused on just a few main characters in the story. Two in particular, and his relationship with this girl, Celine, who they grow up together. So it's really kind of their story, on a grand scale, and how it affects Earth, how it affects life as we know it. But it's really about, we wanted to kind of take our time. And it is an experiment. We hope that people understand what it is, how they're getting it. If they see the fulfillment date is like 9-10 months from now, once you're in it. You are in the ecosphere of Love and Death and the Dark Side of the Moon. Every month, like clockwork, like you would go on Webtoons or your comic shop or wherever, Global Comics, you are reading another chapter. We will have a chapter every single month. And once we feel that story is, we're ready to be, okay, we're going to put this into full book form and send it out to everybody.
I think that quality that Gerald was talking about is how we're going to try and push it. I mean, marketing Kickstarters is very hard. So instead of trying to, like, I don't know, do some weird marketing gimmick to try to draw people in, I think we're focusing really on making this an event, an experience, fleshing out the world. We're putting out a timeline that like kind of sequences the book. We're creating real world documents. I'm going to play around with some prose stories to kind of flesh it out. We really want to make it a full-fledged kind of experience rather than just this one book. And hopefully the effort that we put into kind of fleshing it out, making it bigger, that will resonate with people more than some, I don't know, weird marketing billboard campaign that we do to draw people in.
Yeah.
When do you expect to start doing the webtoons like model? Is that going to be when the campaign starts?
Yeah, we're putting a preview together right now, and it will be in vertical format, so you will be able to see exactly what you will get every month. So even by the time the campaign ends, we'll already have at least a handful of webisodes already ready to go.
Was there ever any conversation? I know Kickstarter started doing the updates feature for followers of a campaign. Did you ever have a conversation about maybe starting it early before you launch to see maybe if you could get a buzz from the early followers?
I don't think intentionally, but I take the philosophy that the earlier you start a pre-launch, the better.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say the opposite, like you don't want to start a pre-launch too soon. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't really.
Well, I think it depends on what it is you are putting out there. I mean, I think if it's a floppy, you don't. Sure, you could if it's really world building, but you're using the floppy as a way to do one issue, then you wait, then another issue, and then you wait. This is different, so. We have some preview art. We are working on stuff. I am trying to put that preview together, for pre-launch followers. We're going to be expanding the pre-launch page. So we're working on it almost every day.
Almost every hour. But we have a long way to go. I mean, we're recording this in September. In November, we have over a month. So we're really trying to grind this out and make it as successful as we know that it can be, because we really believe in it.
I think maybe to clarify what I was trying to ask was the webtoons format. Was there any thought of maybe like when you get closer to launch, maybe a couple weeks before, jumping the first episode to the pre-launch followers to say, here's what we're doing, and then as we go along, you'll get more of these, but that could be a way to maybe build some buzz and say like, oh, this is really cool.
Right. I mean, that's what I mean sort of by the preview, not just a preview of just, okay, here's a piece of art. The preview, I think we have one more page I'm waiting on from, and then it'll be sent to the production designer who's doing the actual vertical format. And once they have that vertical format, as soon as that's ready, absolutely will be available to pre-launch followers, because I think that you visually need to see what we're doing.
I foresee no reason in holding it back, because if it's going to be there when we launch the page itself, there's no reason why they can't see it before we go live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It won't be the full what you'll get by the time the campaign ends. By the time the campaign ends, will be like here's chapter 1, here's chapter 2, chapter 3. We'll try to do as much of chapter 1 as we feel. Well, I don't want to give away the farm, we got chapter 1. We don't really need to back it. Maybe I'll back it later. Kind of like it won't be maybe a natural stopping point as far as where the story should have that beat, but it'll be a stopping point that it's enough to say, "Oh, I get it. I like this. I'm into it. I do want to see more." Yeah. You know what I mean?
At 100 pages, there's going to be a lot left to see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think it's a really cool idea to serialize it in that format while trying to do an OGN. I can't think of anyone else who's done it. I'm not going to say for sure because I feel like we live in a world where so much has been done. Somebody's going to find some obscure version of it.
Well, usually how it's done is that people will say, and this is like, I'm just taking a webtoons creator. I can't remember her name, but there have been series on webtoons, the actual webtoons.
Yeah.
Who have then gone on to Kickstarter the collection.
Yes.
So we're just doing it all in one.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting one or the other. You know, like you don't have to subscribe to a third party and then maybe wait 2, 3, 4 years down the road to maybe get a Kickstarter book. It's all one thing. I'm actually building the page that will be for backers only that they can go to. They'll have a password and they can read, each chapter like you would on Webtoons without paying any subscription.
Have you had any issues or concern with trying to explain this to consumers? Or how has that meeting been? Because I feel like even though I get what you're saying and I think it's a cool idea, I could see where people would be confused by it.
So for me, this is an OGN, right? It's a graphic novel. I didn't write it in webisode breakups. We're just kind of looking for natural breakups to actually put them together. But it's a book. It's a graphic novel. It's meant to be sat down, open page one, and finish it. That's how we devised it. That's the product you'll be buying. This webisode thing, it's kind of icing on the cake in that I don't think anyone's going to be like a webisode fanatic that likes webtoons and then gets drawn to this, and then we have to explain it to them. So it's kind of like if they understand it, great. If they don't understand it, we'll explain it to them. But I don't think that's why people are going to buy the book. I think they're going to buy the book because they love that OGN and they want to hold in their hands what we put together. And so anything on top of that, I don't think is going to be like the main thing we have to sell.
Yeah, I'm sure taking both of your collective fan bases together, you'll have a decent amount of eyes on it to look around.
Yeah, and we've been doing that. We've been working on how we can collaborate more, not just as writer and artist, but more as Third Contact Comics, which is what we call our stuff. Frank does Grim Space and a bunch of other things, Macabre Motel, but I don't. I mean, we're going probably on a year. I don't do a project that's not, unless it's like freelance work. All creator-owned stuff is with Frank exclusively, for me.
Okay, I was gonna get to that down the line. You got the Third Contact Comics. You also have Rolling Squid Bones.
Yeah.
What's the difference between these two things for somebody who may not be a fan of you two?
Well, Third Contact Comics is me and Frank. So no matter who publishes what we do, it's really just called Third Contact. It's just what
the team. It's the name of our team.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier than just saying Frank and Gerald, Gerald and Frank. So we just wanted to make a newsletter and just make it like sure, there's Frank Martin and there's Gerald Von Stoddard, but when it's Third Contact, we don't have to just say you. Hopefully, ingrained in people, that's Gerald and Frank, and we've done 1,000 cuts. More Coil. Rolling Squid Bones is a publisher, and they're an indie publisher. I sort of become friends with Chad, who's the publisher, and they are one of the few who, if not the only, who heard what I pitched them, what we were doing, and and Chad was super excited about it. He loved how it felt experimental, and it's given us free reign to do whatever we want.
If in the movie terms, Third Contact would be the production company that makes the movie, and then Rolling Squid Bones is the distributor that picks it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, so Rolling Squid, like, what do they provide as far as a Kickstarter goes, or are they just the distribution end at the end of the campaign?
Well, this one's a little different because we are doing the serialized version, so there will be some staggering. Meaning that backers always get first priority. So if you back Love and Death and Dark Side of the Moon, you're going to be the ones who get to, from day one, day zero, be following the digital serialization of the story, plus getting the book. That will be available in the direct market after. So we're working Rolling Squid Bones has given me the bandwidth and the page that I can create for backers to come to. And then when the book is actually finalized and ready for print, that will be Frank and I will handle the Kickstarter backers, but it will be available for purchase, even outside of Kickstarter. But Kickstarter comes first. That's the community that that we both have built separately and that we bring collectively, and so that's our first priority, is making sure that there's a reason that we want to maintain our direct to consumer relationship, regardless of publishers and all that. So the Kickstarter that's ours. That's totally ours. Those backers, those supporters, they come first. They get priority, and then there will be opportunities for people who come late to either pre-order or get in on the web series, but only like previous chapters. As long as Kickstarter backers get there first and have time to check it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to joke. We're not going to see it on a comic book store in Chicago a year after the campaign.
No, Chris, you're one of those. I know. Take my name off that project. I shouldn't even say I was involved at all.
My name's on the project too, sir. So don't.
No, there's no direct. You won't find that book outside of Kickstarter as far as a physical copy until all Kickstarter backers get theirs first.
I always say I've written a few about Frank's books in the past because I'm such a big fan of Grim Space, but I can guarantee everybody out there it'll be shipped as quickly as possible because Frank's books are always like, I just paid you and it's already in my inbox.
It being that quick is a double-edged sword because then when I'm not, I just feel like such a failure. I am a week behind. No one's going to back a single book ever again.
I don't even want to talk about 1,000 Cuts. I've been a month behind, but it's not my fault. I don't want to get into it.
I joke with Gerald all the time that these bad actors, the guys that really just fall apart and never put out their books, they are a blessing to guys like me because they set the bar so low that you really, really have to screw up to get people to think that you are just going to run away with their money. So I've got a lot of leeway.
Like, I've been behind on 1,000 Cuts, but I have been very communicative through updates. I told people exactly what the issues were, how they were being resolved. 90% of that completely out of my control. It's been one crazy thing after the other, but no one has to hunt me down. You know what I mean? Like, I give my personal email address to everybody. You can write me. I'll call you. I'll tell you everything that's going on. That book is now ready to go, and it's going to be shipping this week.
I think customers are savvy. They immediately can tell who's hiding from them and who is going to honor their pledges. So
in the book you're talking about, Chris, I mean, there's just the lack of communication and transparency. That's the main problem.
And I think it's twofold because I have another project I backed, I believe 2 years ago, and that creator has been very transparent. But as a consumer, there is a part of me that's like, shit or get off the pot, dude.
Well, 2 years, that's a long time. If anybody's watching this, you will never have to wait 2 years from Frank and I. Ever. Yeah. That's crazy.
I think I give creators leeway a lot of times, and I'm respectful of it, especially newer creators who are like just trying to get their first couple books off the ground. Like
2 years.
That. But 2 years, I'm like, you need to get the book out. Like
I'm 1 month behind, and I can't sleep.
Yeah.
I can't stand it because I'm a super backer myself, and I'm very patient. I'm cool because I go back and forth to Italy. So when I come back from Italy to New York, I always have a stack of books, and it's kind of exciting. So It's okay if it's like a few months late. I'm not here anyway, so I don't mind it. But there was one book I backed 7 years ago. Probably never see it.
I think the worst I had was a 5-year gap, and then by the time we got it was published by Scout Comics.
Figures.
If anybody's watching that, and I think that Frank and I, that's why we appreciate you having us on here, Chris, and allowing us to talk about it, because we know if we don't, it's not something people are used to. I'm going to back a floppy, I'm going to back an OGN, and then, okay, 3 months, 4 months, I'll get that book in the post. So we really need to talk about as much as we can to say, you're getting that. We're making the book in real time.
Yeah.
And every time you're getting exactly what we're making. In a format you can read on your iPad, on your phone, on your laptop, wherever you do read digital comics. And then you'll be able to be on our newsletter where we talk about all this stuff.
We have like a bigger scheme here at play too, because it's not just this webisode thing that we're doing where you back it and, like Gerald said, you get to read it in real time as we're making it. I think the idea of that is setting the trend that when you get something from us, you should expect something along those lines. An event, an experience. This isn't us just putting out books. This is us trying to craft some sort of total package for you. And so we're already planning, like, our next one after this to try to blow it up, to make it bigger, to make it not just, we're making this book, you got this book, we're on to the next one. It is a full-fledged presentation that we're going to be offering.
Yeah, and I love the idea of doing an OGN, even though I know the financial realization of indie comics and why people cut them into floppies and then release them. Because for me, I've become a trade waiter on the platform outside of obvious exceptions that are either legacy from my buying or just something I really can't wait to get. So I would like to see OGNs and just collections do a lot better on the platform, because I think a lot of these books would read better in that format, and we read so many comics every day that would read better in that format.
Well, how do you think we had the pre-launch page 2 months before we went live? Because we know it's daunting to put out an OGN, but I think
Frank and I,
we're up for the challenge.
And Frank and I have been only doing floppies.
Yeah.
This year, from the end of this year well into 2026, the only thing that Frank and I are working on are 2 graphic novels. We have one.
We have tons of stuff.
We have a one-shot floppy. We have a one-shot floppy that you'll in for hospice.
Yeah.
We're doing.
You guys have talked about, like, making this event, doing the digital webisode thing, all these different things. What else are you doing to make an event? Like, what other things can people expect from the campaign outside of the book itself, and just what you guys are doing in that front?
So I think one of the things we're going to do is, and I talked to Gerald about this before, is we're going to have stretch goals, and our stretch goals are going to be quote-unquote deleted scenes from the OGN. Like, when I pace the book from beginning to end, it's got a good pacing to it, a good narrative, but there's certain scenes I could have included. Like, when you are making a movie and you have scenes that you leave on the cutting room floor, you put them on the special features in the DVDs, and people really like the movie, get to dive in and see what they're like. And we're going to craft, essentially, DVD special features with these stretch goals. We're going to have these scenes in script format, in storyboard format, layouts, finished pages. They're going to really give the feel that this is a behind-the-scenes extra of stuff that isn't included in the book that we still think can round out the experience if you liked it.
Well, one cool thing I can tell you this is a lot of times when you get, for example, behind the scenes or extra content, you get a lot, maybe more from the artist or the visual side. What's really nice about this is Frank is really pushing, and I'm totally on board with more coming from the writer, like more coming from that aspect, or a prose aspect, or a written word aspect. Because Frank and I mean, we love comics, we love graphic novels, but we both love books. I am a writer too. I think Frank's a better writer. I just don't have the patience for it. So we both love stories, and we both still respect and admire the written word. So I think Frank has come up with a lot of really cool ways to get more content behind the scenes from the writer, and not just from me. Like, the only thing that I'll really be offering that's special is we're not going to show I'm doing a special cover only for Kickstarter that I'm actually watercoloring by hand, and that will only be available on Kickstarter. And we're going to kind of like unveil it in different parts. So we're not going to show it right away. And just trying to put together these like cool little pieces. We've had some video ideas, some audio ideas, ways to augment the experience that we keep talking about. That you look at timeline graphics, there might be some audio, some voiceover stuff. Frank's got deleted content, and how it can all come together that you may not see in the verticals, that may not even make it into the graphic novel, in the direct market. But at least for Kickstarter, really like a compendium of all the stuff that we've done.
I think Gerald had mentioned when we were talking about how to include all this stuff, Jonathan Hickman had brought up, because he loves his charts and his graphs and all that kind of stuff that you throw in, but it really rounds out the universe and the experience. So I think we're going to take a little bit of inspiration from that and try to include some of that stuff.
Oh, that's really cool to hear, because I'm a big Hickman fan. So,
Well, what's cool is about the story itself is that the story takes place on a moon base where scientists are hard at work. They're doing research, and when you talk about science and you talk about research, they have a heavy paper trail and documentation and transmissions that they can send. So there's all this stuff all sciencey stuff that we can play around with to create, like, round it out and make it look like real world stuff that we're presenting.
Yeah, and Frank's reading a lot of National Geographic too.
Always.
He is. That's not a joke. He calls me and tells me these crazy articles.
Honestly, as a writer, National Geographic is the best source of inspiration. I read every issue cover to cover. They cover so many different topics, and it's just serendipitous that last month's cover story was about going back to the moon and making it profitable and setting up moon bases. And I'm reading on the toilet, taking pictures of Gerald, being like, reference.
Well, that was okay. Now that I know that, now that I know that, that's it. My phone blocked.
I say, Frank, I know for a fact those were selfie references, so don't.
No, but one thing, I'll just go back to the writing aspect. I feel that, again, as a writer too, but I am primarily an artist. I think more visually than Frank, but we complement each other, and we bring that to each other. Like, I'll give it something that I can see visually, and Frank puts, I don't know what the word is, a structure to it. Does that sound about right, Frank? Because mine is more like a dream, and Frank puts it in a way that has context, that has more substance for a reader to actually enjoy. So I feel like with this, Love and Death is our first collaboration where I can really sit back and draw and think visually. And
I think that comes through in the very opening pages, because Gerald had this idea of presenting the opening pages in a very dramatic fashion, with this gigantic space monster approaching Earth. And from a writer's perspective, I can just say, okay, space monster coming to Earth. And I could think of that and I'll move on. But when you look at the pages that Gerald draw and you really stare at them and absorb them, I'm like, he took the story, this one plot point, this one story detail, and he just made art from it. It's a really beautiful piece.
Well, Dave did an amazing job with it.
Stop it. Stop passing the buck, okay?
No, Dave's colors take it. Dave's colors are so phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
All together. I think I took Monster. I just wrote Monster in space, and then together they did something nice.
I'm going to back up a little bit, because there's something you said that really clicked something in me, and I'd love to know, Frank, if this was kind of the inspiration. But when you were talking about the science-y stuff, as we were saying earlier, it kind of reminds me of when you're playing a video game, and I think like Resident Evil or BioShock, and you get the audio logs of the scientist that was there, and it gives you a little bit of background to what's going on behind the scenes. It may not directly affect the story, but it gives you an idea of what happened prior to the story. Was that an inspiration on when you were doing those, or?
No. I mean,
Okay.
you never No. It's you never really consciously think of all of these stuff a lot of times, but when you just absorb media, it just becomes part of your consciousness, and you subconsciously might just spew a lot of this stuff out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I find the fact that video games have blown up so much that there's so much extra content or lore that they use to develop these worlds, and I'm just thinking like, well, maybe nowadays they'll just have an AI write an algorithm that just does all that stuff. But you got to think like there is an actual writer who wrote that diary for this piece of collectible that might be hidden under a desk in a game that nobody will ever get. But they hired somebody to come up with these words to become this character and write that diary entry. And I find that aspect of gaming fascinating, and we can do that in our own
I mean,
way
we
in
do.
these comics.
There is a scene we've talked about. I mean, we don't want to give it all away, you know, but there is like a certain scene where we are playing around what extra content around that specific scene that some people might be interested in to consume it in a way that has more coming from different angles.
Yeah, and you know, the thing I love about working with Gerald is that when you're a writer and you're doing and you're bringing an artist on and you come up with all these cool ideas of like all this extra stuff, and your writer's essentially just kind of a hired gun working on the project. You bring it to them and they're like, okay. When I bring it to Gerald, who's really nurtured this project from the start, he can see why all this extra stuff can have value, and really, so he really brings a writer's sense to the art, and I enjoy bouncing these kind of weird out there concepts, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but we always play around and experiment, so that's why I have a lot of fun.
I have kind of thought for a long time that I wish there was more. Like, I understand comics are a collaborative effort, and even when money exchanges hands, there's still collaboration there. But I thought that a collaborative effort of building it from the ground up between two creators and really being in on it together, like you two are right now. Like, I love when the artist, and I don't mean to pick on artists, Gerald, but I love when artists are on the show because they never come on the show because they get paid their whatever for their pages and they move on to the next thing. And I get it, that's the game, but it shows a different amount of care and love that you're actually on the show talking about it as opposed to just being a hired gun. And I wish that was more of a reality in the indie world.
Well, I think that Frank and I only move forward. We have lots of ideas. I mean, it's not like if we were to do everything we ever thought of, we'd have no life and we would probably be broke, taking out credit cards and loans from the bank. But we only move forward with an idea that we both mutually are in love with.
Yeah.
It feels there's no resistance. You know, I've told Frank lots of ideas. Frank's either like, yeah, that's interesting, or or yes, I like this one. Let me sit down and think about it. And a day later, he writes like a treatment, I guess, a brief synopsis, and then, as he said earlier, then it's just back and forth. And I don't think anything that we do together, he cares more than me, or I care more than him. Like, we've adopted a child, and we're just growing it together. And so, no, I feel I am 100% invested in everything that we do.
I think it comes from a lot of the fact that these characters and these stories and the plots that we're developing together, we really do put a piece of ourselves in them. So when I'm writing this story and the main character, Nero, it's like I'm hanging out with a friend, and I feel for him. And this is a character that then Gerald developed. So I saw like the opportunity for me to like put a sense of my soul in him and develop him. And so when I'm writing him, it's just like having a good time. It just feels very comfortable. And the fact that came from a concept that Gerald first envisioned allows us both to really take ownership of it.
And the guy, and I don't care what Frank thinks, and I'm not here to blow up his ego, but I will tell you, I've read a bunch of Frank's scripts. I know Frank's work, both together and separately. And as he said, this is a character that I've had for over a decade. And when I don't like to read Frank's work in progress. I like to read it when there's like a big, huge chunk. And when I read this script, I wrote it right away. I said, okay, yeah. By page 40, I was like in tears. And I had no notes. Not one thing. This was like one of the probably first scripts that I had ever gotten as an artist where anything I could possibly say would ruin it. It really is a beautiful script. It really is.
That's really great to hear. So, I love how passionate you guys are, and I love talking about the book. It looks like you guys are currently on Kickstarter with a pre-launch page. You've said a few times you're aiming for November. Do you have an exact date, or are you just kind of
Yeah, November 3rd, I
okay?
think. First Monday of November.
And can people out there expect like early bird stuff? You're doing day one specials. What can
Well,
we
Frank
expect?
and I, we don't agree on everything, so we'll find out.
We got a long way to go. All the details still need to be ironed out. But
I like early bird stuff. If it's, we are working on what that exactly will look like. Will there be early bird stuff for the first 48 hours? Of course. What that will be, you'll have to join the line to find out.
Okay, so you guys haven't decided what kind of bookmarks you're going to give out people and all that yet.
Well, I mean, that's the easy part. I mean, like that little stuff, you know. And because, we are lucky in a way that I can draw it, so gives us a lot of leeway to be able to offer some visual stuff. And Frank's putting a lot of effort into content that's more prose. So we're trying to put those together to, offer people who really want to jump in on this series.
Mm-hmm. I do want to wrap up because I know we're short on time. I wanted to know though, November, was that just how the timing worked out, or did you deliberately go for November? Because that seems to be a slower period in the Kickstarter universe.
I think that's just how the timing worked out, and I'm not scared of like a Kickstarter slowdown. I think I'm confident in Gerald and mine's ability to say, look, we have this book, we think it's going to be great. If you can back it. If you don't want to back it, that's fine. But we're full steam ahead.
I've always felt that I would rather be the best book in the slowest period.
We will be the best book in November.
And you will be, yeah. So why not go to the slow period and just own it?
No,
I think it's just sort of happened because we have a schedule because Frank also does books on his own, so we do work this stuff out well in advance, and we try to find the best times where we work together and where we work separate. And this was a month that we could do something together.
Yeah. I'm just always curious how that works out I'm sure 99% of it is, hey, the book's done, we're ready to go. Like, let's just do it. But
yeah.
Kinda.
So, gentlemen, it's Love and Death on the Dark Side of the Moon. Before we wrap up completely, was there anything else you wanted to say about the book? Let people know about it? Give you the floor for a few minutes here to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be on the cover.
You heard it here, folks. Frank Martin said it's gonna be good.
Hopefully, it's gonna be good. ... Hopefully,
it's a departure from what people might expect from Frank and myself. I think I'm very much really into horror, and Frank does many different genres. He's also very good at horror, but Frank touches more genres than say I do personally.
Yeah, Frank has terrible ADHD.
As somebody who's surrounded in a household surrounded by people with ADHD, it feels very torturous.
So I think that we bring the things that we do love that we haven't really done before and do it together. Like, it's a love story at its core. It's a love story between two characters. It's a love story for humanity in a very dark time. It's a love story about our mortality and insignificance in the greater cosmos. And on a very human level, told in a very grand epic scale, because it's a comic book, it's a graphic novel. It'd be boring just to write a romance novel about the end of the world.
Real feel-good story is where you're going.
Well, yes. I mean, it depends.
You know what?
Sure.
I think when I think of really great works, and you say, I want you to pigeonhole this thing into one genre. Name it as one thing. And you can't really do that with some of the best works. You know, it touches upon a lot of stuff. It's sad, it's happy, it's dark, it's light, it's science fiction, but it's I describe it as a fairy tale. It's like, it's all these things together. And it's not because Gerald and I were like, let's go make a science fiction book on the moon. You know, it came from a very real human place, and it kind of grew from there. So it's a lot, and I love it to death, and I'm just excited for it.
Well, and I think that's what Frank and I are really honing in on as collaborators. We've gotten to a place where we both mutually feel, regardless of the parameters of your story or environment or time in the history of time or whenever it's taking place, is that at the heart it is a human story. These are human characters, sort of. There is a lot of heart, even if there's tragedy or horror. You know, we don't want to. It's not fluff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's a story that hopefully there's elements that people can relate to, and in certain aspects.
Well, I can tell you from the moment you sent me the initial concept art, which I'm sure a lot of the viewers, listeners out there have seen already because it's all over the thumbnails for this podcast. I was hooked, so I would be there day one if there's early bird specials. If not, maybe day 2 or 3.
Fair
Yes,
enough.
early bird specials. Frank will be auctioning off his children one by one.
Yeah, 50 cents. Get rid of them. Take them.
I'm really excited for it. It looks like a great project, and I just love this collaboration you two have. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime, maybe for the next one. But before you guys take off, social media, websites, is there a place on the internet you want to send people outside of the Kickstarter to follow you guys?
Gerald's Third Contact Substack, whatever. I don't know what the link is.
Yeah, well, I think it's my name, like geraldvonstoddard.substack.com, but it's Third Contact. So Frank and I, we put sort of our mailing list together. You can find both of us both on Instagram and social Facebook and all that good stuff. We'll probably share more on Facebook and the newsletter. Those will probably be our two main that we're using.
Well, so everybody out there watching, listening, look in the show notes down below. I'll have a link to that Kickstarter so you can go follow it so we can pump those numbers up for these two fine gentlemen. And then I'll have some other links as well to the Substack and some social media and all that. So make sure to go down there and click on some links. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you two.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Best of luck with the campaign.
Appreciate it.